Hi, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't even know the name of the show.
The show is a Sharefest podcast.
Sharefest podcast.
Yeah, so basically it's what we do is we have stories from different young entrepreneurs and different individuals on their journeys and just for them to share their stories so it can inspire the youth as well in some way.
Excellent.
Yeah. I think before we start, I maybe want to make a very, very short introduction so people know who you are.
Okay.
Yeah. So your name is Michael Saddam Amushelelo.
It's actually Michael Ndali Saddam Amushelelo. That's what's on my birth certificate.
All right.
But now I've decided to say, you know what? It's gonna be a long name, Michael Ndali Saddam. So I decided I'll only go with Saddam Amushelelo.
So you took the Ndali part out.
No, not the Ndali. I took out the Michael and the Ndali because the Michael hyphen Ndali, it's like one word.
Yeah.
Like Michael Ndali.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you prefer to go by Saddam.
No, you see, you can't call yourself a general and have a Mickey Mouse name. I mean, all the Michaels that we know, they've only been superstars. So I'm not a superstar, I'm a general. So there's no way I can be a general with a superstar name.
I guess, yeah. Yes. I see how the Saddam name would make sense for you.
Yeah, no. Just to give a brief background and a brief analogy of where the name comes from.
Yeah.
So I was born in 1991, and this was the time of the Gulf War. Now, for those young people who don't understand what the Gulf War was, this was basically when Saddam Hussein, the then president of Iraq, invaded Kuwait.
Yeah.
And then that was called the Gulf War. So it was in that period of 1991. And ironically, I was born in that period of the Gulf War. And my dad decided to say, you know what? I'm going to name my son Saddam after Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Interesting. So you are a multifaceted individual. So I think to briefly sum you up, I would say you're resilient, innovative, and you had quite a bit of audacity, to say that. I think we can see that in a lot of things that you do, especially. And you amassed quite a few wealth for yourself as a young individual. You are an entrepreneur. You did Forex and cryptocurrency, right? And
no, but I didn't do crypto because crypto, I bought a few Bitcoins back in the days when people didn't still know about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then obviously it was one of the wisest investments I ever did because it paid obviously a few times tenfolds than what it was. And then from there on, I was like, nah, not Bitcoin. I'd rather do currencies. And that's why I chose Forex as a basing point to do trading. Yeah. So trading is a multifaceted thing. I mean, you can trade commodities, you can trade indices. I mean, I can just be trading shares of companies. So trading is vast, but I decided to specialize in currency trading.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you like in countries like Africa and Namibia, I mean, continent like Africa and a country Namibia, it's like you hear a lot of people try and do Forex and cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, but they usually they face a hurdle. It's really difficult to see someone succeed in that venture, especially if you're not overseas or in the States or something like that. How did you get into that space?
I think, poverty is I always tell people, your circumstances should be your biggest motivator. Now, I don't come really from a wealthy family or something of that sort. My parents were your average, not even middle class, because middle class means that they must have lived somewhere in the suburbs. I mean, I lived in the hood, so already that gives you an indication to say that I didn't grow up in a middle class family. And then I realized to say that as a young person, I always had big dreams and I always had a huge ambition. And I didn't want to die poor. I didn't want just to be another insignificant individual out there in the world. And so gradually I came across Instagram posts of young people in South Africa posting their flashy cars, posting their beautiful mansions. And I was like, wait, what's happening here? It's a bit intriguing. So I remember at the time, took the little money that I had, flew to Joburg, and then obviously I was intrigued to go see, is this thing's real or is it just a facade or a parade and all of that? And then I went to go do a bit of research, met up with some of the traders in that side, and then I was like, oh, okay, so this thing is actually real. So it's not just some facade thing that's happening on the internet, because the internet is full of many things. I mean, I could be there posting that I'm the president of a little known island country somewhere, and people would start believing it.
Exactly.
Because I can be anything on the internet.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure if it's real. And then obviously coming back with that background of having seen the guys' cars, them having seen how they do the trading and all of that, I was like, wait, this thing is actually real. So I started doing my homework on it. And the beauty of today's world is that everything is on the internet. I mean, if you go on Google right now, most people will be Googling what's Amushelelo's net worth, who's his wife, who's his girlfriend, all of those things. But why don't you Google, how do I get out of poverty, Google? Or how do I make money? Like, it's ironic that every single information that you need today is out there on the internet, but not a lot of people want to make use of it. So I think ignorance is poverty. And I decided to say, I'm not going to be an ignorant young individual. I'm going to try and explore what's out there in the world. I'm going to take risk. And then I took risk. It paid off major. And then sadly, when you take risk and you become successful, you automatically develop haters. And Cat Williams once said, you know, if you don't have haters, then you need to start doing something to get people to hate you. He said, if you only have one hater, make sure by the end of the week you've got 20 haters. So that's what I did. I mean, I became successful, young, rich, flashy, young guy. So I'll never apologize for being rich and young at the time, because all our life we're told that you most probably have to be a big tata with a big kapunda in order for you to drive a Range Rover.
Yeah.
You need to have walked 100 years or at your retirement to drive an E63 or whatever car I was driving. So I was like, no, man, I'm not going to wait until I'm 60 or I'm old in order for me to enjoy life. So I said to myself, I'm going to enjoy life while I'm young, because when I'm old, I want to sit down with my kids. I want to be able to sit down with my grandchildren. Not at 60, then that's when I want to be in clubs, or that's when I want to be driving a fancy car. No, at 60, I want to be on the farm, driving my Land Cruiser or whatsoever, and just doing farming work.
Just relaxing.
Yeah, relaxing.
Yeah.
So I think essentially a lot of people have been told that you can only become successful after a certain age. That's why a lot of times when I would drive around with my cars, people will be like, yo, your dad has a nice car. I'm like, my dad still foods. He doesn't have a nice car. This is my car. I bought it with my own money.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So it's a mentality of to say, but wait, how can this young person have accumulated so much wealth? I think in today's era, we're seeing a lot of young people becoming rich very fast back then in the days, because we're now using technology to advantage. I mean, if I do a TikTok video, or if this video just managed to, this podcast, if it goes viral, me and Drew, we're going to be on a different stratosphere. Overnight, our lives are going to change, because this is going to be streaming in Singapore, in Malaysia, in China, in India, and people are going to be like, wait, who are those two guys in this podcast? And our lives immediately just change overnight. So things have changed. And for as long as people don't realize that the success formula for back in the days is no longer the same success formula that's working today. Because back in the days, you were told, work hard, study hard, go to school. I can't be telling kids to work hard and study hard when we've got chat, GDP and all those things, and you've got AI and all of those things.
Yeah.
What are you going to study hard if there's a artificial intelligence that's memorizing everything that you need to know?
Exactly.
I mean, back in the days, we were told to memorize cities of countries. Now I can just go on my phone and Google it. I mean, times have changed. And if we don't realize that times have changed, then sadly, we're going to be using an old formula that's no longer applicable into this new world that we're living.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part that a lot of people do not understand.
Yeah. I mean, the world is a little bit more connected nowadays. You know, in the past, you used to be restricted to just your vicinity.
Precisely.
Yeah, but now there's a lot of connectivity. You could be in your house and do a lot of different things. You don't necessarily need to be in a, 9 to 5, as they say.
Yeah.
Was that what triggered you to take business as a way of life? Was it because of your mom was a businesswoman?
No, they all worked their 8 to 5, 9 to 5. So let me tell you my story so that people are perhaps able to better understand. Now, all my life I've had this entrepreneurial drive inside of me. Now, I remember very well in primary school, my dad had just come from Germany. He was stationed there for, I think, 2 3 years because he was in the army. So obviously they get posted to say, you go to Germany, you go to where. So he got posted to Germany. And then when he came back, he bought a toaster. And obviously back in the days, we didn't know what a toaster was. And he started making for us sandwiches. And the sandwiches looked amazing, they taste amazing. And one day I take the sandwich with to school, and then my peers at school or my classmates are like, where did you get this? Because everyone was like, it's a different kind of bread, because everyone is just used to your normal bread. Maybe you cut it in the middle and whatnot. So now I'd got this nice rectangular shaped crispy bread, and people were like, what is this? And immediately there I spotted that this is actually gonna be a good business for me, because everyone wanted a taste of it. So the first day I obviously made them taste it and they loved it. And then they were like, can we have more? And I was like, oh, you guys want more? Okay, came back the next day with more. Guess what? And I put a price on it. I was like, guys, it's $1. And then they bought. And then from there on, I was like, wait, I can actually make money? And then that's how I started making money. And that's now speaking 98, 99. No, not even 98, 99. I think that was 97, 98, around about that time. I was most probably what? 8 years, 7 years old, and I was like, I love this money making thing. I can actually get used to
got the taste of
my pockets having a lot of money, because growing up, our parents always tried to say, no, stay away from money. If an uncle gave you money, they would be like, no, money is not good. You are not supposed as a kid to have no money and all of those things. And in my head, I was like, but wait, you guys go to work on a daily basis for money. Now, why is this thing so bad if you have to go to work on a daily basis? So things were not just adding up in my mind, because as a young child, I've always been intrigued by why do people say certain things but do the opposite. So I was like, no, man. If money is not good, then why are you going to work on a daily basis? So I was like, this doesn't work for me. So then eventually I finished primary school, went to high school, and then high school, grade 8, I remember my mom buying a packet of lollipops to sell at home, obviously to supplement her income and all of that. This is now my stepmom. And then I was like doing some few calculations. And funny enough, we had a math class where we started being taught about statistics and probability and all of these things. And then I started understanding this statistics and probability. And then I did a few of homework and said, wait, my school has a population of 1,050 learners. Now, my math teacher told me that if the probability of you selling 50 packets of lollipops to a population of 1,050, then I only need to target the 50. I don't even have to worry about the 1,000. And I was like, wait, let me test this theory. So one day, while my mom goes to work, I take the packet of lollipops and then I take them to school to go try out this theory, because obviously I'm all about experiment. And then I said, let me just sell in my class, because in my class there's already over 35 odd learners. So I just need to sell to my class and then the next class, and then that's it, I'm done. So I take out the packet of lollipops and I go like, hey, I'm selling these things. Within 2-3 minutes, I sold those things out. And
they nicknamed you Stocky or something.
Yeah, they nicknamed me eventually Stocky. But when I sold those out, I don't know how Casper felt when he first filled up the dome, but I'm sure that was the feeling of being able to sell those lollipops out within those few seconds. And eventually, I started going with them on a daily basis to school. And then I started selling them, and that's how I ended up getting the name Stocky. And it just felt so good being able to assist my parents, because at the time that was their business. But I was just basically the guy who was pushing it. So later, eventually, I got competition from a school tuck shop. And then I was like, yo, I need to come up with something innovative. So I then started with this marketing strategy where I go like, no, buy one lollipop for for $2 and get one free. Now the one lollipop is already like $1. Now the human being only hears the word free. He doesn't hear the price tag. So now I'm selling the same lollipop for the same price and giving one thing for free, but them not realizing that I'm not giving them anything for free. The price changed. They were no longer hearing the $1. They're just hearing buy one lollipop for $2 and get one free. Because I was emphasizing on the get one free. And then it worked. I was bidding the tax shop. Then the tax shop couldn't realize how was I winning. Because I was giving out free lollipops. You buy one, I give you one for free.
Marketing 101.
It's marketing 101. And that time I was how old? I'd estimate I was 14 or 13, and I came up with that marketing strategy, and it worked like a bomb. And from there on, sold lollipops until grade 11. Grade 12, I said, no, man, I'm a senior now. Obviously, I don't want to sell lollipops anymore. So I was like, I'm done this year. So grade 12, I didn't sell lollipops. And then eventually, I failed my grade 12. After failing grade 12, my parents, obviously, because they believe in education, because remember, they come from an era where they've been engraved to say that study hard, go to university, study hard, graduate, and then you get a job. So that was their mantra. And I was not about that. Already in life, I knew that, you know what, I'm going to become successful somehow, somewhere in life, but not through this education system. So eventually, because you live under someone's roof, you have to enroll into these academies where you need to go upgrade your subjects. So while I was busy upgrading my subjects, I said, no, man, let me start a side hustle. Let me start doing something. So I started the MCA, which I call Michael Cleaning Agency. I basically started cleaning people's yards because I was like, I must make money and I love money. And that's what I did. I started cleaning people's yards, designed my leaflets, and then I remember my slogan very well, the leaders in landscaping. And at the time, people were like, what do you do? I'm saying, no, I'm a landscaper. And people are like, what?
Were you doing this yourself or together?
No. I was doing this myself. And then when the work became a bit too hectic, I employed my cousins and brothers and said, hey, I've got a big tender. Let's say you get called to Auckland Park. Those guys' yards are like this big. Or Pioneers Park. So I was like, hey, I need extra hand. And then I'm like, I'll pay you this. And then obviously I started with that. But it was a seasonal business because when it rains, then obviously the grass grows, and then there's that period where there's no rainy season. So that means that people don't do much landscaping.
How would people find you? Would you just knock at people's doors?
No. So like I said, I designed flyers, and that was 2009. I said, I'm going to design flyers, and instead of me going to knock around people's places, I would put these flyers at various companies, because I know if someone works at a company, they likely have a house. So you leave them there, and then I'd give to some of my aunts and say, hey, please go give to your colleagues. If they ever need someone to come and clean their yard, give me a call. So I was being smart. I was being strategic. And that time I was 18? Yeah, I was 18 or odd years. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And then obviously I was just a go-getter. I was a hustler. I was like determined to just make money. And then eventually when that died off, I was like, let's look for another hustle. So there was a house, I think a few a few streets away from my house. They were busy with their renovations. And I went there and I was like, hey, don't you guys have an odd job for me there that I can just do some work? And they were like, yeah, we're willing to pay you $50 per day. And then you can just be there making sure the bricks are packed, the cement is mixed properly, you clean the area. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it, not a problem. So I took that job. So while I'm doing all these jobs, I'm still going to school, because school was now like sort of part-time, where you go on a Monday or Wednesday, and then you go do your 2 subjects that you're upgrading, and then after that, you're more than free, because it's like NAMCO, but it's just that fancy NAMCO. So while I was there, I remember the first week when I got my 250, and I was like headed home. And as I'm walking home, there's a man who walks past me with a plastic bag of rations. And I'm go like, hey, Tate, how much is a ration? And he says, no, $3. And I'm a bit skeptical to say, ration, $3? Because these things at the service station that time where the short one was selling already for $10. So I was like, is there something off or what's this? So I buy one and I eat it. It's perfectly fine. And I'm like, Chief, where you getting this?
Yeah.
And obviously he didn't tell me where he's getting it, because that's I didn't know that in business you don't reveal your sources or where you get stuff from. And I was like, Chief, you're asking too many questions now. Do you want to buy, or what is this? And I'm like, okay, fine. Can I buy the whole packet? And then he's like, yeah, sure. So I bought the whole packet. The whole 250 Namibian dollars, I made that investment to buy those rations. And then immediately I thought to myself, this is a great idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in the deep freezer, and then I'm going to write a placard. And that placard, I remember writing it very well, MMS, which stood for Michael Mini Shop. And the first thing I started selling in that MMS was rations for $5.
You were big on names.
No. I was big on names because I somehow understood that branding is important.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wait, MMS, MMS sounds good. Because remember, that's the time when you had SMS and MMS, and I was like, wait,
it's catchy,
MMS. And then when people ask me what does MMS stands for, Michael Mini Shop. So I was like,
nice.
It's my mini shop. So started selling that. Went very well, and then eventually people were like, hey, do you sell hot dogs as well? And I was like, hot dogs? Like, yeah, I sell hot dogs as well. So I went to the shop, bought a few brechens, cut them up in the middle. You put the Russian there, put a bit of ketchup, put a bit of mustard, and whatever, onions, and then voila, you now have a hot dog. And guess what? I was selling the hot dog for $10. So now I was able to quadruple the margins that I was making, because on the brechens, on the Russian, I was only making a $2 margin. Now with the addition of the hot dog, I was almost making about 50% profit, because I was making like a clean $5.50 on that. So the margins were bigger on that. Now eventually, obviously, as the people are coming to enjoy their hot dogs, I realized that's that, because they needed something to. So I was like, wait, the people need cool drinks as well. So I went to go buy a packet of cool drinks, those 24 packs. These are the bottles, those Coca-Cola bottles. And then I put them in the fridge. And then every time I add something onto the board, then I go and basically add the board. So now it was rations, it's hot dogs, and cool drink. Now remember, that's now in 2009. And that's the time where people start getting big on SMSing and chatting and all of those things. Now remember, there wasn't this free SMSs that we have today. If you're going to send someone a text message, you literally have to write a long story, because SMSs back in the days were, I think, $1 or something of they were costly. So I was like, oh, okay, so people also need this recharge vouchers. I was like, okay, wait, let me go find out where people buy these packets of recharge vouchers, so that I can also start selling recharge vouchers, because I saw that people used to walk long distances just to buy this recharge vouchers. So I was like, let me bring it closer to the people. And then that's what I did. Went to go do my homework, find out where these recharges were being sold, and then I started selling recharge vouchers as well. And then eventually I realized to say, okay, the business at home is now functioning without me being there, because my siblings were chipping in. My mom, dad, them would also chip in to assist customers. And I was like, wait, let me go and now start selling these recharge vouchers on the streets, so that I can be able to generate much more higher revenues. Because if you're on the street, people all the time need recharge vouchers. So at the time, I remember very well, because I lived in Vanahanda, and then I went to go sell my recharge vouchers at a place called Vanahanda Bus Stop, which is close to Vanahanda Service Station, because there are shopping malls there. So I was looking for traffic, because I realized to say that if these things are going to sell, it must be in a place where it's busy and crowded. And I was like, perfect idea, Michael, let's go for it. And so I'm there on the streets every day, selling. Now people used to assume that I'm Zimbabwean. That's because back in the days, it was only my fellow Zimbabwean brothers and sisters who were selling on the streets, because Namibians felt like, these are jobs that are supposed to be done by people from foreigners and all of those things. But at that time I was like, money is money. Doesn't matter whether you get it from selling a recharge voucher, or you get it from walking or whatever. That $10 still remains the same $10 that someone would earn working in the bank, or someone would earn working in government or in something of that sort. Exactly. So I was like, something is wrong with the mindset of our people. Because for someone to call you, are you Zimbabwean because you're selling on the street, it already gives you a connotation to say that people think that it's only Zimbabweans who are supposed to be selling in the streets. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to pass out on this opportunity to make money. And then back at the time, there's a guy called Rasta, a Zimbabwean good friend of mine. I was selling with them, and then it was merely just Zimbabweans on the streets. So people thought I was Zimbabwean as well, because the way we would interact, you know, I have this thing that my wife hates, where I make an accent. I would speak like your accent. So let's say a Chinese come here, I would start saying, hello, how are you? You good, fine. And Indian comes, are like, hello, brother, how are you, brother? Because it's much more relatable when you speak to someone and you sound like them. You feel more
comfortable, yeah.
You feel much more comfortable. My wife always says, no, it's insulting, don't speak like that. Because, you know, when I have to speak fluent English to someone who is not able to speak fluent English, they're not going to be able to understand me. So I always say, bring yourself to someone's level. Try and be relatable. Try and be able to discuss with someone. So yeah, that's how I basically have been all my life. I've just been that guy who is not afraid to be mocked, because I was being mocked by my peers. They're like, why are you selling things in the street, bro? Like, are you okay in your head? I remember a friend of mine insulting me to say, Chief, you are a Malala Pape and all of those things. Malala Pape is a reference for saying you're a street kid, or you're just someone who's dumb and all of that. And I was like, you know what? Mock me all you want, but I know exactly what I'm doing on the street. I know exactly where it is that I want to be one day in life, and I'm going to get myself there one way or another. So when people mock me, I actually feel proud. That means I'm doing something that doesn't make people comfortable, and that simply means that I'm on the right path. The moment people stop clapping for me, I always get a bit skeptical and be like, I'm doing something wrong. Because if you're not being laughed at, if you're not being mocked, that simply means that you're an average dude. And I don't want to be average. There's no way I'm going to reduce my life to just being an average person. I've decided that a very long time ago, and there's no way I'm going to be average.
Nice. If I can take something away from this section of your story, it's like most of the time, the things we want to do, we revert to a book or we revert to someone to teach us. But it's like, if you just get yourself into the work, if you just take action, you keep finding that the stuff you end up doing is the stuff people teach, you know, like the marketing, the way you discovered some leaks, like with the free, you know, and the way you discovered like, you know, margins on things. You buy something cheaper, you make it expensive. Or you have raw materials and then you keep switching from like a Russian to a hot dog to juice. You know, those are stuff people teach in actual school, you know, but if you just keep getting your feet dirty, the more you do it, eventually you get results, and you also get the knowledge, like first-hand knowledge, right?
I mean, who writes books? Books are written by people. People obviously have experience. Now, where do you gain this experience? This person must have been doing something themselves. Exactly. And then eventually they go like, wait, man, I'm going to write a book on how to sell.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at a guy like Jordan Belfort. I mean, if anyone watched the movie Wall Street, I thought Leonardo DiCaprio did a much better job at being Jordan Belfort than Jordan Belfort himself. Because I listened to Jordan Belfort and I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to sell me a pen. But Leonardo DiCaprio, when he portrayed Jordan Belfort in the role of Wolf of Wall Street, I was like, I want to know more about this guy. And when I got to know more about this guy, I was like, no, I read his book, The Straight Line, what, blah, blah. I'm like, it wasn't just cutting for me. So it basically tells you to say that, you know, sometimes all you need is a bit of confidence in yourself. Because I can guarantee you, Jordan Belfort had a lot of confidence in himself. And that's why he was able to amass the amount of wealth he did and the level of success he did. And sadly, most people don't understand that if you don't believe in yourself, no one is going to. And sometimes I tell people that just believe in yourself. Be that crazy person who believes in yourself. Because obviously, the circumstances and backgrounds where we come from, I come from a family where no one was a successful entrepreneur. No one was a successful business person. So when you tell people you're going to be a success in business, people are going to laugh because there are no examples that people can say, no, maybe he wants to be like this particular uncle, or no, maybe he wants to be like this particular auntie. So when you're breaking generational years of poverty,
Yeah.
best believe me, your own families are going to fight you because they don't understand what it is that you're trying to do. And I always tell people to say that when you have a vision, it's said because a vision is only something you yourself can see. When you try and explain it to the average person is obviously going to laugh, because I remember very well in 2012 telling my parents that I'm going to be a millionaire one day. And one day our family name is going to be so known, not just here, it's going to be known all over the world. And my parents looked at me and, you know, that look of skepticism and like, yo, who bewitched our poor child? What is he talking about now?
Yeah.
You know, I want to sound like Nigerian now. Oga, our poor child, who bewitched?
Yeah.
That type of thing. So it's said that unfortunately people don't believe in you until you eventually succeed. And when you do succeed, the people are gonna be like, oh no, he succeeded because of A, B, and C and D. And it's funny when there's that saying that says that, you know, people won't investigate your source of poverty, but they want to investigate your source of wealth. And sadly, that's the sad part of life. And unfortunately, some of us, we knew for a fact that the day you decide to become successful, you're going to obviously face resistance, because success is not going to ever be given to you. No one is going to hand you success. It's something that you have to fight. And that fight starts first with yourself, because I now need to convince myself to say, wow, are we really going to be able to make it? Are we really worthy of this thing that we're saying we want? And then self-doubt is going to start creeping in. It's obvious, because if people around you are all the time saying you're going to fail, you're not going to succeed, then eventually you start allowing that small voice to creep into your head, and you're like, you know what? Maybe I am bewitched because things are not going my way. Maybe, you know what? There is a curse in our family. There's no way I'm going to be able to be the one to break these generational curses. And everything is all about the mindset. And sadly, if people don't realize to say that if you believe that you're going to die poor, then best believe me, you're going to die poor. But the moment in the day you decide to say that I'm going to be wealthy, then best believe me, you're going to be wealthy, because your mind is only going to give you what you decide. And that's why there's a saying that says your input determines your output. If every single day I'm thinking that I'm going to fail, guess what my output is going to be? It's going to be failure, because that's essentially what I'm attracting. Now, most people don't believe in the law of attraction and all of these things. But just ask yourself, there was a point in time where you wanted a particular car. And this particular car, let's take, for example, Range Rover Supercharged SVR. 3-4 million. I think it's 4.5 million now. Brand new, 2024. Now, when you start visualizing that car and you really desperately want it, you'll start seeing that car drive everywhere.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're spotting it just everywhere.
Low familiarity, they say.
All of a sudden, because why? Your mind is focused on getting this particular thing. Now, when I focused on becoming rich, I remember in 2012, that time we still had checkbooks before checks were phased out. I remember writing myself a check for 2 million. And then I was like manifesting that one day I'll be able to walk into a bank and be able to cash 2 million. That was 2012. I kid you not. 2018, I had $2 million. Now, if you look at that time frame, that's about what? A 6-year time frame.
6 years.
Took long, but eventually the dream manifested. And that's the power of having something in your mind. That's the power of believing in that particular thing. I had no idea what it was I needed to go do to get that 2 million. But all I knew is in 2012, I wrote myself a check for $2 million, and that's what I wanted to cash. Like, obviously, I was envisioning that I already have a lot more in the bank, So the 2 million was like most probably 2% of whatever it is that I need to cash. So that's the power of being able to manifest. That's the power of being able to believe in yourself. That's the power of being able to focus on yourself. And the naysayers are always going to be there. The haters are always going to be there. The critics, ooh, plenty of them. But forget the noise of what others have to say and just focus on yourself. I can guarantee you success is just going to be a matter of time.
True. They say most things in life have compound interest. You know, the more you keep doing something, eventually, you know, that compound payoff is going to be so big.
Precisely.
For you with business, you started so small. When was the first time you realized that you're actually cashing big? When was that first time that, what was the business that actually brought that, you know, immense
You know,
amount
so let's go a bit backwards. So 2009, I'm there with my MMA, MCA, Michael Cleaning Agency, MMS, Michael Mini Shop, and doing a few other hustles here and there. We're either working on a construction site. I was literally doing anything and everything. So I recall November 2009. A friend of mine called Kelvin Kangobe, we grew up together. He brings me an advert for Namibia Brewers Limited. They're looking for apprentice brewers. And I was like, yo, apprentice brewers, what's this? And then they're looking there. I looked at the requirements. You just need a grade 12. And then they listed the symbols that you need to have in the various subjects. And I was like, ish, my symbols are not that good, but this is definitely my job. Because I got a G in mathematics. I remember having, I can't remember the other, but I wasn't the brightest of students in school. But I said, I'm going to apply for this job and this job is mine. I just clearly stated it. And then I applied. Now, when I applied for this job, this was the first time I ever had to complete a CV. I didn't know how CVs are done. Now, at the time, breweries were introducing the new bottle shape that they currently have. And they said, new look, but same exceptional quality. And then I took those same words with that advert and I said, Michael Amushelelo and exceptional quality is all I'm about. I just extracted that exceptional quality and I was like, that's what I'm about. And then I put their advert there. It was even in the front page of my CV because I'm like, I'm applying to the brewery, so there's no harm in me putting their advert on my CV. And that's what I did. And then the rest were just my grade 12 certificate, which I failed with those horrible results. And then I put it in. They were looking for mathematics, you at least need a B. I was like, you know what? With my G, I'm still going to apply because that's how gangster I am. So I applied. And then I remember it was in February or so, or January. No, I think it was January. Can't just recall the exact date. It was in January, yes. They give me a call and say, no, we want you to come for an interview. Now, at the time, I was busy registering at UNAM. I wanted to study law as a first option, but I didn't qualify for law because I had done science field. And they were like, no, you'd first need to do history and a few other things. And then they were like, you can do media this year and then take a gap year, and then next year you can do law. So I was like, okay, because I figured that if I ever have to choose a career, then law or media would be it, because I love talking. And I figured, like, with this loud mouth of mine, I'm sure if I have to appear in court, Your Honor, I would be able to wipe floors with this Mickey Mouse lawyers that we currently have, like, guaranteed. Don't even need to study law. Like, right now I can wipe the, but anyways, that's a discussion for another day. So this guy's called me and I'm there busy registering at UNAM. I'd done the first part of the registration and I was supposed to go pay for your student card or something like that. And I was like, I'm not gonna go pay for the student card. This job is mine. I'm gonna go kill that interview and that's it. So quietly, without notifying my parents, I quietly went for that interview. And I remember in that interview, we had the master brewer called Christian Muller, the HR team, and a bunch of other guys. And the master brewer asked me a very difficult question. very, very difficult, and I just couldn't answer it. And I thought about, wait, man, it was the time, if most of you remember, and you must be very old, brewery started an advert where they say, we don't drink pink drinks. It was like an encouragement to say, stop drinking ciders, real men drink beer. That's the time when adverts were not yet being censored, because right now, if someone does an advert of real men don't drink pink drinks, oh, trust me, you're gonna get cancelled real quick, real quick.
Yeah.
So he asked me this tough question. I was like, wait, man, this is how I'm gonna respond. I said, real men don't ask pink questions. Keep it real. And then the whole interview broke into laughter. And that's when I realized, you guys are just human beings. Yeah. Now I got you. And then from there on, the interview was mine. I owned it. I controlled it. Now I was the one controlling the narrative. They would ask this question and I'll just pop off an answer. They'd ask this, because now I was in charge of it. So I was like, sometimes in life you need to take charge of things. And remember when I said, when they gave me that phone call and when I saw that advert and I said, this is my job.
Yeah.
I meant it that it's going to be my job. And that's how I got the job. And then on the 15th of February, 2020, that's when I started working for the brewery as an apprentice brewer. So eventually that job, because it took too much of my time, because I was basically studying to become a brewer. So that means I now had to go to a German school because I needed to learn German. Spricht du Deutsch? Spricht du auch Deutsch?
No.
Nein. Oh, okay, du kannst.
Keine Deutsch.
Okay, keine Deutsch. So I speak a bit of German now, thanks to that.
Nice.
But a lot of people don't know, because there was a time when I had a meeting with a few Germans and they were there talking shit about me. Ah, scheiße. I'm like, oh, Swana Kartoffel. I was like, oh, it's so good, gents. And then just to surprise them, I was like, hello, sir, can I know what's the time?
This whole time.
And they were just all like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So that usually happens. So I couldn't focus on business because I was like, I'm not going to have time, because now I have to study. After that, you then have to study brewing. You have to study a language. And I was like, this is going to be tough. So I was like, okay, for now, leave the business, focus on the job. And the pay was good. I mean, I was 19 years old, earning about $16,000 per month. And that's in 2010. So you can just calculate how much 16,000 is. I mean, people now earn an average of 1,200, 1,005. And I was earning 16,000 in 2010. So you can just imagine how much money that was. Now, here's the problem with being young and getting that much money without any financial education. Got myself into serious debts. At the time, I used to consume alcohol like nobody's business, so half of my salary went into drinking. Loved women, so it was partying all the time. I was just doing literally anything and everything to just like reckless young person. So fast forward 2012, and then something just hits me and says, because here's the problem. Every time we were out drinking, we'd be discussing all these rich guys. And I'm like, wait, if I'm out here drinking with you guys, when are you guys going to discuss me? Because I'm now here with you, discussing rich people. And I was like, I'm tired of discussing rich people. I also one day want to be a guy who's so known or so successful that there are people who are in a bar right now debating about me.
Yeah.
Like, no, that guy has money. No, that guy is this, that. I was like, I want that as well. Because that means that you have reached a certain level of significance in society if people are debating about you. The other day, a guy calls me and he's saying, yo, Chief, we are calling from this location. We're having a debate. We just wanted to ask, did the government unfreeze your assets? We just want to know what's going on there. And then I'm like, whoa, so people are having debates about me. And I was like, shit, we made it, man. Like that dream, that goal that we wanted, it's now a reality. I mean, if you go now into various WhatsApp groups, I'm sure my name is going to pop up in those WhatsApp groups. And it's going to pop up not because I jumped off a building or because I've got a porn video out. No, it's because I'm doing something impactful in society. And so I worked for those 2 years, and I was like, nah, man, I want to quit, because I realized that eventually I'm going to die, and I'm going to die an insignificant individual, because the path or the life that I chose was a life of distraction. Nothing productive was coming out of my life. And then I just started staying in tune with what was happening with the country. And for those who are still old enough or young enough to remember, that was the time when we started reading in the newspaper reports about unemployment being very high, and it's in alarming proportions and all of this. At the time, the former president, Lucas Pohamba, was the president. And I was like, wait, if unemployment is the problem, then employment creation must definitely be the solution. So it can't be rocket science.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to say, man, let's use our entrepreneurial skills and get back into business. And then that's when I started a company called Amushelelo Investment CC. And then under that company, I literally said to myself, you know, we've got a lot of graduates who are graduating from various institutions. And these young people, the first thing you're told is that you need experience of 5 years or this in order to qualify for a position. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Where are these people supposed to get this experience if no one is going to give them a helping hand? So I decided, let me start a company so that I can be able to employ young people, especially these professionals who will be graduating, and then together we can start various companies. So if you did engineering, I'll start a construction company. If you did marketing, I'll start an advertising company. If you did accounting and all of this, then I'll start an investment consultancy company. And you would become a 50-50 partner in that thing, because obviously I only have the brain, but I need your expertise. So that was the whole philosophy behind that company. So the idea was I would use my pension to basically bankroll and bank finance my entrepreneurship lifestyle, or my dreams, or whatever I'd want to call it. So I then resigned from my job. I didn't tell my parents, because they're gonna be freaked out, like, how you resigned? How do you resign? Like, it's a taboo to resign. Unless you get fired or dismissed, then that's fine. But to resign, as young as I was, because I think I was 21. No, I was 21, and I was like, it's gonna be a taboo. They're not gonna want to accept it and all of that. But I said, you know what? There's no way I'm gonna wait until I'm 60 in order for me to fill $1 million, or there's no way I'm gonna wait until retirement in order for me to touch $1 million. I was like, I'm gonna work for my $1 million now. I'm gonna hustle for it. I don't know how, but I'm gonna do it. So that's how I ended up quitting the job, and that's how I basically got back into business.
Wow, nice. I mean, I've read at some point, not sure if it's called the Maslow hierarchy or something, but it's like a guy called Maslow. So what he says, he has sort of like a pyramid thing.
Yes.
So where he says at the very bottom, if I'm paraphrasing, it's like at the bottom, it's like you're basically just trying to survive. You know, most people at the survival stage, you just want to, find something to eat, find a place to stay. But as the more you go up the pyramid, you reach a place where you have sustenance for yourself. Like you can, if you have a business, you can take care of yourself. And at the very point, it's almost like you want something bigger. And usually that comes off as doing something for people, basically. So what I can see with your trajectory, how you started all the way up, what got you into activism?
No, I think activism has been in me all my life. And I recall very well, I still want to go get that video footage. I think it was shot by One Africa. Now, this was in 2012. The city of Windhoek decided to go demolish people's shacks. And this was winter time. And they took a bulldozer. It was almost like a repeat of history. Remember what they did in the old location? I think 1956, when Kakrukade Mungunda them were massacred.
Yeah.
Same thing, similar, no difference. Took a bulldozer, went to go bulldoze someone's house. Now, immediately when I heard about the bulldozing happening, because the bulldozing happened in Havana, I immediately ran to go find out what's going on. Now, by that time, the large crowd had gathered at the Havana sports field. And the media was there, everyone was there. And the media were like, does anyone want to speak about this? And then I was like, yes, please, I want to speak. And then I say, you know what? It just shows that this independence that we got, a certain few individuals just wanted to become ministers and all of these things. But they are doing the same very thing that the apartheid government used to do. But at least we must be thankful for the apartheid government, because when they destroyed people's homes, they gave them an alternative. Now with this government, they're not even giving people an alternative place to stay. Because remember, when our people got removed from the old location, which is now Hochland Park, they got taken to Katutura, which means a place we don't belong. Now with this current government, they didn't even dare to try to provide. Now I went as far as saying, because at that time, ministers were getting new Mercedes-Benz, because apparently the Volvos were too small, because they had obviously gotten fed from self-enrichment, from greed and all of these things, and now they cannot fit in an executive car, because those Volvos S60s, those are executive cars. So for them to say they could not fit in those cars, it was a blatant lie. Because remember, a minister sits alone in the back with his driver. So he can eventually, you can even take out that one seat and then just have enough room. I can just imagine the guy who was making that complaint. It was most probably Tony Nyoma, because Tony Nyoma is about this big. And the other ministers who are that big. And I said, these fat kids, they've become so fat that they can no longer see that they are poor people. And it was also the time when Pohamba them were getting scholarships for their kids to go study in China. And I was like, we have got poor kids who needed these scholarships. A minister can afford to send his child to China on his own cost. But these people are so greedy. Even a scholarship meant for the poor, they are taking it for themselves. And when that video aired, my dad was called by an intelligence. State House called him. And they said, can you speak to your child? Tell him he has a big mouth. He cannot call people fat kids. And my dad told me to say, son, for as long as you live under my roof, I don't want you doing none of this nonsense. So that's why from that period, 2012 until 2016, when I was able to get my own place, I had to cut down on my activism, because my own father was restricting me from doing this activism.
Yeah.
And eventually the day I got out of his house, you best believe my activism was on steroids. Steroids, because I'm like, oh wait, I don't have to worry about anyone kicking me out of the house, because I'm no longer living in his house.
Yeah.
And that's when my activism jumped into steroids. And even when I became a multi-millionaire and I had so much to lose, I was still fighting the system. Those who can remember in 2019, I think in 2018, that's when I started a party called Power, because we wanted to register a political party and then obviously run, because I realized that in this country, we've got clowns running the country. And I'm not afraid to say it. Clowns, idiots. Stupid is a nice word, because some of us, we make stupid things, but these guys are clowns, outright clowns. And I was like, no man, we need people who understand that if a taxpayer pays $1, that taxpayer deserves a return on that investment. Right now, we have a country that has been run into a deficit of over 150 billion Namibian dollars. And we've got nothing to show for this $150 billion debt that we have. Apart from a few statues of Sam Nujoma that are in gold, this kettle that we call a museum, the State House, and then that nice place called the Heroes Acre, where there's electricity, there's water, where we bury the dead. Can you imagine? We are prioritizing electricity and water for the dead, but if you go now into the informal settlement, there is no water, there is no electricity. Do you know how many toilets are at the Heroes Acre? There are enough toilets to accommodate our people living in informal settlements. So my activism has always been there. And I, for one, have always despised something wrong being done onto someone. There's no way you'll slap that guy, the cameraman, and I'm just going to be like, I'm going to pretend I didn't see that. Like I make other people's business my business. I don't know whether it's a curse or a blessing, but that's what it is. And that's why I'm half the time in prison, I'm half the time in court. It's because I cannot see an injustice and allow it to remain that way. I'm going to fight it. There's no way. You're going to have to kill me. That's the sad part.
Yeah. Right now, do you think you spend more time in activism or business?
Right now, activism takes up much of my time because sadly, you see, the problem is in society and in life, there can't exist a vacuum. Someone has to fill that space. Now, obviously, there have been people who have been in activism and then eventually they left activism, or you don't know whether they're activists anymore, whatever the case is. So people obviously are going to want their issues to be addressed by someone. Now, if you become comfortable to a point whereby you start ignoring issues that are happening in society, eventually those issues are going to come back to us. Now, if anyone has watched Spider-Man, Spider-Man has a good moral story. Remember when Peter allowed that thief to run away?
Yeah.
And that thief ended up killing his grandmother.
Yeah.
If I continue to allow injustices to happen in this country, one day I'm going to have to pay for them. Now, we live in a country where we've got 1.2 million people who are unemployed. That's literally almost more than half of the country, or at least 45 to 49% of the country. Then we've got another 1.6 million people living in poverty. Now, guess what Aristotle said? And for those people who don't know who Aristotle is, Aristotle was a Greek philosopher. And this guy lived 100 BC, before Christ and all this. I think he lived before Christ, if I'm not mistaken. And he said one fundamental thing. He said, poverty is the father of a revolution or a criminal. Now, guess what we're going to one day have in this country if we continue ignoring this poverty that these people are living in? We are either going to have crime, which is what we're currently seeing. Tourists are getting mugged now on a daily basis. This used to be one of the safest countries where tourists could come walk around. But now tourists can't just come and walk around. You get mugged in daylight. There was a video while I was still in prison where tourists got mugged and they ran after their bag because they're like, there's no way I'm going to allow you to steal my bag. Look at the crime reports. In a 2-month period, you have 600 break-ins. What does that tell you? Look at the amount of drugs that are being brought into our country. Look at the amount of people who have become drug users. So our society is slowly but surely decaying. But because you live in the burbs where you've got electrical fence, you've got neighborhood watch where if I go jogging there, I get asked, say, what are you doing here? And I do that on purpose. I go jogging with overalls, like just to look like a criminal. And when one of those neighbors of mine pull me over and I'm like, do you have a problem? And then when they realize it's me and they're like, oh, sorry. I'm like, no, it's not about, oh, sorry. Not everyone who's black and runs around is a criminal. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in this country, we've got freedom of movement. And that's why very soon I'm planning to have a fun day in the suburb where I'm going to get all the people from the informal settlement, and then I'm going to come and take them and show them how the other half of this country lives. Not half, but how the 1% live. So that they see how kids are there playing in a pool while people don't have water to drink. So that they can see how people are there feeding how dogs are much more fatter than their kids. Because this dog has a budget of about 10,000 per month just to feed it. So we must somehow be able to say, guys, if we're not going to be realistic about solving these issues, they're going to come bite us one day. I mean, you hear of people getting robbed, people jumping into their fences, they get tied up and all of these things. It's because people are hungry. I say, give someone a job that's 8 to 5. And this person is not going to have a chance to have anything else to do. Because an idle mind, especially one in poverty, and we see you guys driving these fancy cars, and I'm no poor person by any means. But I realized to say that if we don't do something, and there's a phrase that says that one day the poor will have nothing to eat but the rich. And I don't want to be eaten by the poor. And that's why I've said, you know what? I'm going to make myself a friend of the poor, so that one day when the poor have to go eat somewhere, they'll be like, oh, Amushelelo, you, it's fine. You are with us. Then they'll come and eat you, who's decided to remain silent on these issues. There's a lot of people who want to be able to voice out these issues, but people are scared. And sadly, this is obviously a podcast. I can't use insultive words because we obviously want kids to be able to listen to this, but
Yeah.
I'm itching to say and this, but obviously maybe we can blur them out. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm itching to literally just call a spade, because I, for one, I don't like beating around the bush. If I'm going to call you an idiot, I'm going to call you an idiot. And that's because you're just stupid. Idiot is a term for saying you are not intelligent, you are not wise, you're failing to use your frontal lobe. That's basically what it is. Today I called someone, Chief, just use your frontal lobe. And this guy couldn't understand what a frontal lobe is. Now, for those of you who don't understand what a frontal lobe is, it's basically the part of your brain that's used for thinking. Yeah. Come on, guys, use it. It's for free.
The analytical part. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Now I can see that you have quite a lot of enthusiasm when you're speaking about, stuff like
No. You know, those are serious issues, because those are issues that are dear to my heart. Just today, just to give you a bit of background what I did today. So today I get a call from this young lady. She says, no, her sister or cousin got arrested. And I'm like, okay, what's the issue? Why did they get arrested? No, they got arrested because the boss went to first open a case. Apparently, she works in a pharmacy. She stole some pharmaceutical products and all of that. And then that one failed because apparently there was not enough evidence. And then the boss went to go open another case, apparently, where she stole money. And now she's been arrested. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know, but it's acceptable when you've got guys who are being forced into the police, who only have grade 10, who are retarded and all of those things. Some of them, obviously, because their fathers are general and they are corrupt generals, they are just there putting their sons and daughters into the police system with no basic understanding of the law, of the criminal procedure, and all of those things. I mean, you cannot expect someone who goes for training on 6 months to understand law. I mean, lawyers get trained for how long? 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, this guy gets training for 6 months, and all of a sudden, he's the one who's supposed to enforce the law. Guys, we must be serious. If someone is going to enforce the law, let's make sure that this person is also trained to understand the law. Because you cannot arrest someone when there is no prima facie case. Now, sorry for using Latin words, but they say if you're a lawyer, then you have to speak law. Now, that's why I'm speaking prima facie. Now, they have absolutely no prima facie case. So, immediately I was like, okay, where is she being detained? No, she's being detained at Windhoek police station. So I drive to Windhoek police station, and then I inquire to say, who's in charge here? I'd like to know what's happening here. Then they tell me, no, the matter was open in Katutura, but because we don't have cells to accommodate females, all females that are arrested in Windhoek are kept at Windhoek police station. So I said, it's fine, I'll contact the station commander and find out what's going on, because you can't just be arresting people arbitrarily. A case first needs to be investigated, and once it's been investigated and the investigator realizes that there is a prima facie case, that's when you can effect arrest, or you can, if someone is not a flight risk, you release them on warning and say, please appear in court on this particular set date. And then I said, please make sure that this person is released before this set hour, before I come and make hi and hoi with you guys. And then within just 30 minutes of communicating with the station commander, the person was released on warning. And they slept there since last night. Now, it just clearly tells you that we're in a banana republic where we've got people who don't understand how things are supposed to be done. You see, if we watch movies The FBI doesn't just come and arrest you. When the FBI come and arrest you, they've got to file this stick on you.
Yeah.
Like this stick. When they come in there, you know, you got to take that plea deal, my brother, because you're going 25 to life, home. But here, on a rumor, you arrest someone. Rumor, I can just say now, no, this guy stole 10,000 of mine. You'll be arrested. And now what's funny is, I've got a video recording of a guy taking out his gun on me, but this guy up until today has not been arrested. The police are apparently investigating. Now, are we living in such a mockery of a country that when you can see clear evidence, you don't affect arrest, but when there is no evidence, that's when you want to arrest? Last year, I spent how many months in prison for that demonstration of 21st of March for the unemployment protest? I spent 7 months just for the police to come say, we don't have a case. So you can clearly see that we've got stupid people who are in charge of important institutions, and that's part of the problem, because we need competent individuals to be in charge of certain institutions, or else this country is going to go down the drain, if it's not already down the drain, because every day I smell shit. So clearly that means we are definitely in the drain.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
You see, that's the problem. It's good to have a vision. It's good to see yourself somewhere in 10 years and all of that. But as you get a bit older, you start realizing that this is the only moment that matters now. Anything else, there's no 10 years from now. 10 years from now, if you don't realize that this is the only moment that matters, you'll still be the same person. So I've left that business of where do I see myself in 10 years, and I've learned to focus on now, because I've realized that time is very precious and you never know when you're going to die. So 10 years from now, I don't want to care about 10 years from now. Let me just focus on what's happening now, because if I start focusing on 10 years, then I miss out on this opportunity to live in this moment. And that's the sad part. I had to watch Kung Fu Panda and cartoons had to teach me the importance of life. Now, there's a phrase where I think Master Shifu, I don't know what's his name, where he tells the panda to say, yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. But today is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Nice.
So I'm living now, bro. I don't care what happened yesterday, or I don't care what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm going to focus on my now.
Now matters.
Because that's the only future I'll ever know. Like, if tomorrow comes, you're just going to live it one frame at a time. And I believe that essentially, most people are depressed. Most people are living anxious. And that's because they're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't care what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't care what's going to happen 2 days from now or 3 days from now. That's why I live in the moment. That's why I'm this fearless. That's why I don't care whether they want to kill me. I don't care whether they want to arrest me, because I live in the moment. I don't have that thing of, no, there are people always saying, no, Amushelelo, you must calm down now. Wait until at least election. When the elections are over, you can. I'm like, guys, people are suffering now. People have real issues now. Now, for you to tell me to wait until elections, that simply means I no longer care about this person. That means I only care about also becoming an honorable, so that I can be sleeping in parliament, watching porn on my Hawaii tablet that's been donated by China, and get an iPhone as a Christmas gift while kids don't have textbooks, while kids are being taught under trees. And then I'll be sitting there on my iPhone speaking to my 10 side chicks while I'm watching porn here. And then when the speaker says order, order, then I'm sleeping while the speaker is saying order, order. That's not what I want. What I want is to make sure that those people are held accountable, because our people don't understand. Those people are not honorables. No road is supposed to be closed because a minister has to drive in that road. No road is supposed to close because the president has to drive there. Go to developed countries. Prime ministers of countries that have a GDP million times bigger than ours. They ride on bicycles. They're not there, the roads being cleared for one idiotic individual called the president to pass by. Now we must all be stuck in traffic just because one person is apparently much more valuable than all of us. I think we have gotten this democracy completely wrong, because these people are here to serve. Now, if I need to make way for you in order for you to pass by, you are supposed to have built roads whereby you are here, me, I'm here, and then you can have that up road there for yourself. Now you have to drive us off the road because you have failed to build roads. And now I have to drive in the pothole, whatever the case is. So I think a lot of people don't understand what leadership is about. Leadership is about sacrifice. Leadership is about literally putting aside your own interest for the interest of the people. And that's why I'm not afraid to go to prison. That's why I'm not afraid to die, because that's ultimately what leadership is all about. It's about giving even your own life for the greater good of your own people. I mean, those who are biblical would understand that the reason why Jesus died is he died for your sins. That's what leadership is. Now, you've got people who, when they're sick, they have to fly abroad to go get medical attention, while you are stuck in a hospital where if you open your mouth, like some of us sleep with open mouth, you're gonna have to wake up with roaches or rats in your mouth. You have to sleep on the floor because there are no beds. You have to go to a private pharmacy because there is no medicines in the hospital. But just last year, we wanted to give away a $200 million tender for condoms. Guys, if someone wants to have sex, go buy condoms for yourself. Government, there are certain things where we're not understanding things properly. If someone wants to have sex, that's your own pleasure. That's not anything to do with the public. Go and buy a packet of condoms. Now we are prioritizing buying condoms, knowing very well we've got hospitals that are falling apart. It shows you we've got dumbfounded leadership. It shows you that we've got a pair of individuals who just want to corruptly enrich themselves. Because those guys who get these tenders, look at how they live. They're living large. You know, people make a mistake when they say, yeah, but Amushelelo, you also live large. You also what? I'm saying, I live large as a result of my thoughts. Go and do your homework. I've never received a single tender from government. In fact, I've never applied for a single tender because I don't need a tender to put food on my table. I've got a brain. Only lazy people who need connections, who need a minister, or who need a president, or who need the first lady. People who have no medulla, people who don't have brains, are the only people who apply for tenders. Real entrepreneurs build businesses that are self-sufficient, self-reliant. Most of these tenderpreneurs are going to go hungry in a few years because they are used to being fed. I mean, if we look the period between 2014 when our late president Gengop took over, he closed most of the tender taps. Windhoek by now, you'd hear C63 running. Because back then, it was the TPEC money, it was the mass housing money. Money was floating like nobody's business. Now, I haven't heard any. We've been doing this interview for how long now? And I haven't heard one single V8 engine drive past here.
Yeah.
If he drove past, he has to drive carefully because he can't afford the fuel, or he can't afford the brakes, the brake pads, or he can't afford to put on new tires. But back in the days, it was just. But now you don't hear that rough because most of the tender taps have been closed. And now people like the Go Black, I call him the Go Black Minister of Health, because he's only focused on go blacking his hair. I mean, the guy is 75 years old. At 75, obviously your hair is going to be gray. There's no way you can expect your hair to look as black as mine. Obviously not, because you're 75 years old. At 75, you're supposed to be sitting at home with your grandchildren, giving them attention. But now at 75, you are busy battling for positions with young people like Amushelelo. And that's why most of these guys are going to die from heart attacks. Because unfortunately, the day I joined politics, I told them, guys, resign. Because I'm not this bubblegum politician that you guys are used to. I'm bringing leadership into politics. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm doing. We're tired of this self-serving interest politicians who only want to sell their bellies, be called honorables and all these funny titles. You are not honorable when you're stealing from the people. You are not honorable when you're not delivering services to the people. There is nothing honorable about you being corrupt and greedy. You don't deserve the title honorable. Sadly, most of these corrupt thieves don't deserve those titles. And sadly, in this country, people don't like the truth. And individuals like myself, I'm not afraid to tell the truth because no one feeds me. You see, the moment someone feeds you, I'll tell you, hey boy, you better shut up before I close the tap that I'm feeding you from. That's why most of them, they're clowns. They're buffoonery. They're nincompoops. This is a lack of a better word to speak about them. And that's why we've got a lot of yes men and yes women. Unfortunately, I don't wear skirts. I wear pants. I've got 2 pair of bolts that work perfectly. And for as long as I've got those 2 pair perfect bolts, there's no way I'm going to suck up to anyone in this country. Absolutely not. Don't care who you are. You can be His Excellency. I'm never going to suck up to you if you're not doing the honorable thing. But the moment you do the honorable thing, best believe me, you're going to earn my respect. Because in Africa, we give too much respect to people who don't deserve it. You can't give respect to people who allow others to shit in the riverbeds. You can't give respect to people who allow our kids to walk 25 kilometers to school just for them to be taught under a tree. You can't give respect to such kind of people. But the moment these people start building proper schools for our people, start building proper houses for our people, best believe me, I'll be the first to come out and say, guys, well done. You have done a remarkable job here. But what I'm seeing right now, I'm just seeing a bunch of clowns, and that's why this country is a circus, and people don't realize why we're in such a circus.
Well, usually at the end of the podcast, we ask the guests to, give a short advice to the youth. What would your advice be?
Man, I think it's high time young people realize to say that leadership doesn't come with age. Leadership comes with taking responsibility. Leadership comes with taking accountability. Now, at my age, I've decided to take on responsibilities that are not even mine. I mean, if you look at the issues that I mostly addressed, I address issues regarding labor, I address issues regarding social issues, and these are not my issues to address. But I make it my point to go and address those issues because I've realized that the people we have so-called elected, they're not doing their job. Now, someone needs to step up, and because I told you in the beginning that there cannot be a vacuum. That vacuum will be occupied by someone. And that's why I've decided to say, I'm going to occupy that space. I'm going to provide leadership to this country. I'm going to start providing which direction this country needs to go. And sadly, a lot of people don't understand that you don't need to be of any particular age. You just need to say, I'm going to take accountability. Even though I'm not the one who created this mess, I'm going to fix this mess that's currently here. Because if we're waiting for someone, if we're waiting for somebody, if we're waiting for, I don't know, whoever, those people are never going to show up. You become the someone. You become the somebody. Because someone wants someone to do something, but someone wanting that someone to do something, themselves are not willing to do anything. And that's why our country is the way it is. I mean, yes, it's fine to be peaceful. It's fine to have all those things. But at some point, we must come to a point and say, guys, this peaceful 34 years of independence, what has it brought us? It has brought us poverty. It has brought us hunger. It has brought us unemployment. I mean, we've got over 90,000 graduates sitting without jobs. And people are still currently right now struggling for finances to go register so they become part of the statistics. Are we being for real? Are we being serious in this country? So young people must realize that they don't have a future in this country. And if they don't fight now for their future, which is economic freedom in our lifetime, then sadly, many of us are going to be living in poverty, and that cycle of poverty is just going to continue. So it's up to us as young people to realize that let's take ownership of our country, because if we don't take ownership of our country, The Chinese already own our country. The Indians already own our country. The Americans, the British, they own this country. I mean, look at the ownership of mines. B2 Gold is owned by a Canadian company. I don't want to mention the Chinese. They own majority of these mines. And the list goes on and on and on and on. I mean, look at our economy. 90% of our economy is in the hands of 5%. 5% of the population controls 90% of our economy. Look at the land. 70% of our land is in the hands of 6%, which is majority white. And now the Chinese are also on that list, Italians, Americans, and all of these things. So if we don't realize that it's up to us to start taking accountability and responsibility for our country, then things are sadly, we're going to be reduced to refugee status in this country. And I keep saying that, keep thinking I'm joking, but majority of our people are already living like refugees. That's why if you go into the informal settlements, people don't have running water. People don't have proper roads. People don't have proper houses. You are a refugee. Go look at any of those informal settlements. People are literally, this is where the water tap is. People are shitting there. If that's not a refugee, then I don't know what you are. But look at the rest of the people. The Chinese are living comfortable. Indians are living comfortable. Oh, the whites have been comfortable. But you are happy being the way you are. And sadly, nothing comes from the comfort zone. I'm a comfortable guy. You know, if this country one day is going to burn, me and my wife and kids, we can easily get on a flight and then we leave. How about you who can't afford transport to go to school? You don't have now taxi money to go to UNAM. You don't have taxi money to go to NAST or Polytech or IUM or wherever it is. Now imagine when this country starts burning. Where are you going to run to? To your shack where a bullet can pass through? As we've got brick houses, huh? The bullet might maybe be stopped by the brick. But you, when the bullets start coming one day, there's no hiding in that shack of yours. And this is the reality our people are living in. And it's funny that someone who is not in that is the one on the front line on a daily basis. You know, the Chinatown incident, when I went to go close it down, I don't sell things from China. I don't import things from China. I don't sell this fake Gucci, this fake Louis, and all this nonsensical stuff that people order from China and come to sell. But I took a principled decision to say that why should government burn down things of Namibians while we've got Chinese selling fake products in this country? This order with me people, they are right now complaining about their goods sitting in some cargo warehouse and whatsoever. But they are not taking any action. They are asking me to say, please come and assist me. Now, for as long as people don't realize to say that I can be killed or I can be jailed and then things go quietly and then nothing happens. People, you know, there's a guy called Simon Bolivar, and I want young people to go read up about Simon Bolivar. Simon Bolivar is considered the founding father of Latin America. This is now South America, because he liberated Bolivia, he liberated Venezuela, Peru, he liberated a bunch of countries. Now Simon Bolivar said, liberators don't exist. The people must liberate themselves. So for as long as the people don't realize that I'm no liberator, they are themselves the liberators. Because when the people stand up, that's where the power is. And that's why there's the saying that says, Amandla awetu, which is a direct translation of saying, power to the people. You know, when the likes of Huey Freeman, when they started the Black Panther, when Huey Freeman stood up and said, let's fight back, guess what they did to him? They killed him. When Martin Luther them stood up against the oppression in America, guess what they did to him? They killed him. When Malcolm X stood up, what did they do? They killed him. I'm gonna be killed, it's a fact. No one has to run around the bush or anything of the sort. Because individuals like myself throughout history have always been killed because the people realized to say that if you kill the strong one, the weaklings will go back into their eggshells. And that's why you'll see in this country, that immediately when I get arrested, this country goes back to its nice and peaceful, quiet environment. That's because they realize to say that this is the problem. And what do you do with problems? First, you start with character assassination. That's why I've got so many bogus charges that the government has brought against me. This is the first time in history where a whole entire government comes and complains on behalf of people to say, this guy is scamming people. And he is a fraudster and all of this. But go ask my clients. None of them are going to tell you to say, no, this guy never paid me. So how does the government all of a sudden now has a high interest in people that you come and freeze someone assets, you take them away, and then you call this person a fraudster, a scam, and all of these things? That's what they first did. Character assassination. Make the people hate this person. Label him whatever label. Tell him he's a fraud, tell him he's a scam, give him all sorts of names so that people don't want to associate with him, so that people don't believe in him, so that people don't follow him. Because who would want to follow a scammer? Who would want to follow a fraud? Who would want to follow whatever words it is that they say about me? So that's the first thing that they do. If that fails, they then start jailing you for no reason. Now, if you still come out of prison and you're still doing the same hogwash, because the whole purpose of prison is to say, hey, we're watching you. If you don't stop this nonsense, after prison, the only thing there is assassination. So they first do character assassination, throw you in prison for no reason, and from there, they kill you. Simple as that. Ask Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara gave his speech at the at the African Union. That time it was called the Organization of African Union. And he told the leaders there to say, if I refuse a loan to pay these loans of the IMF, the World Bank, and all these people, I can guarantee you next year, I will not be with you guys. And true to the words, he got killed. Who killed him? His best friend, Blaise Compaoré. Because the French simply came and said, Chief, before government, you guys used to drive Mercedes-Benz and luxury cars, travel first class. Now you are driving in a Peugeot and a Renault. You know those Mr. Bean cars? That's the car that Thomas Sankara used to drive in. Because Thomas Sankara took a principled decision to say that we're not here to be a government of fat kids. We're here to serve the people. You cannot tell me we're in a country where we've got 1.6 million people living in poverty and the president flies around in a private jet to go beg for other countries to give him aid to feed his people. You cannot show up in, what's the suit? Because Saki Shangala recently mentioned that Gengo, the late president, bought him a Brioni suit. I did the maths. Do you know how much a Brioni suit cost? It cost 150,000 Namibian dollars. How do you spend $150,000 on a suit, put on a presidential Rolex, get into a private jet, fly to America, Europe, and all those places, and go back for money? Sell the presidential Rolex. Sell the presidential jet. Sell your Brioni suit. And see if you're not able to build a soup kitchen. See if you're not able to make sure your agricultural system functions properly. So for as long as young people do not realize that if we are not taking politics seriously, that's why we'll have all these old people. Our late president was 82 years old. Our current president is 82 years old. Now, go to the villages. You will find your grandmother who's just relatively 76 or 78. She'll be having her cell phone in the hand. And she'll be asking, my kids, has anyone seen my cell phone? But her cell phone is where? In her hand. Now, what does that tell you about age? It simply tells you to say that people become tired. People become exhausted. Now, what we need is in this country, and I'm never going to say, no, let's get rid of all the old people, because that's going to be completely wrong. Because we need old people to be able to guide the young ones. Young people have energy. old people have experience. Now, when you combine those two, young people will be able to run around, do things much more faster without them getting tired, and you'll just simply be guiding them to say, this is where we made mistakes. I mean, I remember the government of Ian Smith. This is now Zimbabwe, Rhodesia. Guess what ministers used to do back in the days? A minister would come in his private car, most probably a Land Rover or a Land Cruiser. He will drive from home in his private car, and then he gets to the office, parks it, and then gets into the government vehicle if he wants to do official business. When our black brothers took over, the car is now permanently parked in his house. It first drops his kids off at school, drops his girlfriend, drops the wife, drops whoever needs to be dropped, and then only he gets in to drive to go do his official business. Government vehicles are not supposed to be private vehicles. They are supposed to be there to do your duties and functions. Ministers and the president is supposed to come from home in his vehicle, get to the office, and then when he needs to do official business, that's when he's supposed to get into a government car. But this is not rocket science. It's pure common sense. This person is paid a salary. Can they not afford to buy their own car? This person is paid a salary. Can they not afford to pay for their own electricity, their own water? Why must we taxpayers fork out all this money for someone who's supposed to be a servant? The problem is we don't understand this democracy thing. And that's why African leaders have become kings and we have become the servants. Remember, the whole reason why we moved away from the monarchs is because people got tired of having kings. But guess what? The people just replaced it with this new democracy thing. And that's why you see today the roads were closed so that members of parliament and the executive and the judiciary, people who are supposed to be serving us, so that they can just have that whole road to themselves. My people, there is a quote, I'm not just sure who it is. It says that if you look at leaders, if a leader is stupid, then it also speaks to the population. So I'm not going to say anything, but let that sink in. And that's my conclusion.
Yeah. Okay, wow. I think this is probably the longest podcast I've ever had. But I mean, it's interesting to have conversations with different people, different perspectives, and you obviously very audacious, very controversial, some might say. And yeah, but it was interesting having you on. Thanks for making the time.
No, it's a pleasure. I'm certain after this podcast, people are going to be like, hey, Chief, you want that guy? Want to hear more? That guy, he surely sounds like he's got a lot more there. And so, guys, please, below the comments, invite me back on the podcast. Also, please, next time, would want to hear questions from your side. So I think, please, like and subscribe and share if you find this interesting. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks.
No.
Whew.